Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and we have a lovely E-type there behind me. It's a 1970, it's a Series 2, and it's in for just some tiny small things, sort of a post-purchase inspection. It's a good customer of mine. I've taken care of his other cars in the past, and now he's picked up this E-type. And he bought it sort of right at the end of the season, I think, or even kind of late, almost around. We had quite a mild winter for December. Bought it around there from a really good place. It's been sitting now, and now he drove it here just to have a look at a couple small things he wants to fix. I took it for a brief drive, and drives lovely, and I have a couple things to the list I want to add and some small suggestions. So this video will be just over the next couple of days, just fixing some small things. Let's do a little walk around. I'll show you some of the small things that he's talked about. The main issue actually is the oil pressure gauge not working. But we'll go through the car a little bit, and then next couple of days, we'll try and fix everything. And here we have this gorgeous car. It's an older restoration, but done very well. Paint is still really good on it, and lovely and black inside. Drives nicely. It's a US spec car from the beginning. It's been converted to a European spec with triple carbs and all of that. Air conditioning was removed. It had that, but they've kept the power steering, which feels pretty good. It's nice at low speeds. A little bit I've been driving it. Transmission's really nice. Everything else, yeah, it seems to be a really nice. Let me see here. This is always one of those can't really do with two hands or one hand on the E-type, just as I can open up the bonnet. And here we go, triple carbs and everything. The alternator mounted the other way. That's just because you had air conditioning and everything before, but the power steering is there. Oil pressure, like I said, gauge doesn't work. It worked when he drove it home, and then it just hasn't worked since. Definitely has oil pressure, but the gauge just sort of went out on it. Other than that, it is really lovely. So let me just fire it up for you guys so you can hear it. I'm about to put it away into my storage for the night. There we go. We're in neutral. Right into life. Parking brake is, our handbrake is on, so we have the warning light there. That goes out with, well shit, there we go. That goes out with parking brake, so everything works as it should. Hey, the oil pressure just came into life, the gauge a little bit. So it must be a loose connection somewhere. That is something we have to investigate. Keeps good temperature. Fans are put manually on the rear window switch, and that works nicely. Charging and everything else really good. It is just a tiny bit juddery, but we'll have a look at that. We'll check ignition timing, because as you notice when I crank it up, it felt a little too advanced timing. So we'll have a look at that, see if we can also have a look, just make sure that everything's nice and tuned. But I'm going to drive it in storage, and then next couple of days or so, we'll try and fix some of the issues, which one of them seems to be self-healing. That was not working when he drove it here, and not when I was test driving it. So must be a loose connection somewhere, so we'll have to find that. It's a few days later, and we're in the workshop to troubleshoot the oil pressure sender issues. It's either, the sender, the wiring, or the gauge. So what I've done here is, the sender is underneath the intake in there, and I reach my hand around, and I grab the cable from it, and I'm grounding it here, and I have the keys. So what should happen, if we turn on the ignition and everything else is working, the gauge will go up to max. If not, we'll have to continue troubleshooting. But it's quite common for the senders to either give an incorrect reading or just simply stop working. But we'll see. So, drop the keys. Let us put those in the ignition. Then the second gauge from the left is the oil pressure. And we are going up to max. So basically, that means it is most likely the sender. So we're gonna get some tools and replace it. It's in a bit of an awkward spot underneath there, but I'm gonna set up a light and try to show you guys. We'll disconnect the battery while working. Get the sender off. The engine is cooled down, hasn't run for a couple days, so there shouldn't be any oil leaking out of there. Not much, at least. Then we can replace it and hopefully have a working oil pressure gauge. Right in there, we have the oil pressure sender. I just managed to get a wrench on it and start loosening it. Bit tight and fiddly, difficult to film, but just right underneath the most forward carb on top of the oil filter housing. So I'm going to get that off, and then we'll compare that the new one is correct, and then after that hopefully it all works. Here's the pressure sender I took off, and here is the new one. This one's OEM. This one must be some aftermarket because they had to use an adapter to get it to work. So I'm gonna get the new one in place. They use some sort of Teflon tape. Technically not really oil tight unless you have a specific one that's for oil and fuel. I'm just gonna use a bit of thread sealant, which is oil and water and fuel proof, and put this on, connect it up, and hopefully I think we will have a solved issue. Let us connect the battery back up and really hope that it shows up as good oil pressure now. And we'll see how it starts from cold as well. It's been sitting a couple days. I have to always take my shoes off in E-type just because my feet are too big. I'll hit all the pedals. Okay, it's not showing anything now, so that's good. We'll give her some choke, and here we go. And there comes the gauge. Let's see. Might take a while for it to come up. It's at 40 and climbing. Good. So, right above 40. It's not bad. Can start bringing choke down a little bit. I'm gonna go out and check for leaks. That is looking nice and dry down there. That shiny thing down there is it. I'm gonna do this cable here. It's touch-shaped carbon here, so I'm gonna take everything out of that. How's that? I'm gonna let it warm up. We'll see what kind of oil pressure we have once it's warm. And yeah, the fans are set up to run all the time. It's probably a good idea for this car. But we'll let it warm up for a little bit. Possibly just take a slow drive to see what the oil pressure is like. Went for a little run, came back, everything warmed up, sitting at 3,000 RPMs, and we're getting pretty much 40 pounds of oil pressure, which is what the manual states that they want. Otherwise, you can generally say, 10 psi per 1,000 RPMs. That's pretty much what you want. Goes down just below 20 at idle, hot idle, which I think is pretty fine. And you don't know how accurate anything is, but engine sounds healthy and actually is showing what's supposed to show. So I'd say that's fixed. Well, after some test drives, the oil pressure sort of went away on the gauge. So what I did, just quickly off camera, is I have this just oil pressure kit here. I plugged that in and I ran it up. It has great oil pressure. So that's good. Same thing happens. I take the wire from the gauge and it maxes out. So it's been trying one thing now, and let's fire it up and see what happens. Just this thin black cable here. I've just ran an external cable in for the window just to eliminate the wiring harness. What if there's a slight break and then when it's at the angle, when it's in the gauge, it doesn't make contact, but then when I bend it backwards up to earth for it, maybe it does make contact. So it is warmed up. Let's fire it up, see if we get something on the gauge. If not, we'll have to go from there. Here we have the wire coming in just into the gauge. The good thing is knowing it has oil pressure. It's actually really, really good on the manual gauge. So that is nice. Okay, let us see. These gauges are slow. It's moving. Yeah, because when it was warm, it was just barely above 0. And warm oil pressure, we're somewhere around 40 on the gauge, on my manual gauge. Let's just give it a little bit of rev, see if it comes up. That's a lot better. Honestly, we don't need the gauge to be perfectly accurate with it. We just need to know that we have oil pressure or not. It's not fun if the gauge reads 0 when you're out driving, especially there is no oil pressure warning light. So you want to know, and I mean if we're at a hot idle right now and we're halfway on the gauge, that is definitely decent. Then you know that if it goes lower than that, you may have an issue. Alright, I'm gonna talk to the owner a bit and see. Either we dig through the wiring. I'm a little short on time, so I think as a temporary fix, we'll run this wire through the dash somewhere, or a similar wire to this one, and get it all set up, and it will work for now. And then next time he's in for something else, we could make it more of a permanent repair. But at least now it will work. Well, I'll take you guys along for hopefully the last test drive. Ran the wire in a nice way, and I think it's a good fix for now. And then next time I see the car, we can have a look. I think I know where the brake and the wiring is. It's just, you know, sometimes you run out a little bit of time and you have other cars booked in, and this ended up taking just longer than expected. But now we have a functioning gauge, and we see I just fired it up a little while ago, and it is slow to come up, but it is reading above 20 on the gauge, which I think is somewhere around 40-ish. I think you can add maybe 15 to 20 psi to whatever reading is on the gauge, and it will work. But yeah, otherwise, really nice E-type. Like that used to be a US spec car, so that they kept the power steering is actually really nice. It's not too light at speed that I've felt, at least, and went up to some high speeds with it yesterday to try some things, and maneuvering at low speeds is just really nice. Otherwise, it's keeping good temperature, it's charging. Gear selector is really nice, clutch is good, brakes are good. I think he's gonna really enjoy this car. It's a good customer of mine. I've taken care of his 1966 S-Type that you've probably seen before, and he sold that and bought this, so he will use it the same way, sort of like a daily. He's retired, so he's not commuting or anything, but doing the sort of normal runs, going to the gym, going different places, I think this car will be great for that in the summertime. Oh, I'm gonna call him after this, let him know he can come and pick up his lovely E-type. But I'll give you guys a little taste in a tiny bit of what it sounds like, because it does make a lovely noise. And even though, you know, E-types are over 60 years old, this one in particular is 55. And I mean, they're old cars, but they're still really nice to drive. I'm a little on the tall side. I can still fit, but if you're a bit taller than me, it might be a tight squeeze in one of these. Then it's better to go for a Series 3. There's a lot more space in them. But they're lovely. They're still pretty quick. There's nothing like them on the road, and they will turn a lot of heads. This one in particular has a really good heater. I should have to like turn it down a little bit. So yes, you can actually get a heater working nicely in an E-type. I don't know what's up with this one, if it's just that has good flow or something, but it works good. But we'll do just a little bit of a downshift a second, and we'll come up on a little straight bit of road here. Not doing anything crazy, but we'll just do a little pull in second gear so you guys can hear it. And that is absolutely lovely. And we're showing good pressure on the gauge here, so I'm going to turn around here and we can start heading back. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this little interesting troubleshooting. It's not, like I say, it's not perfectly fixed, but we have verified that yes, we do have pretty good oil pressure. Just gonna wait for some cars to come here. The gauge is not completely accurate. It's at least showing something. I'm sitting here idling. It's between 0 and 20, so at least it's showing it has oil pressure. And then, you know, it's verified that it is a lot better than this on the gauge. And I mean, you can hear that if it didn't have oil pressure, you definitely notice. And it has really good oil flow as well. I removed the oil filler cap while the engine was running, and there was a lot of oil up by the camshaft, just flowing like a river of oil. So nothing really particularly wrong with it. Just, you know, these old gauges, notoriously inaccurate, and you know, maybe you can get it reconditioned or something, but as long as you know that, well, the car does have oil pressure, it's not that big of a deal. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.